Hey guys, in the crypto universe today, I'll talk about layer 2s, one specifically, right? I mean, they're all over the place. Last time I looked, there's over 80 of them, and the whole point of layer 2s was to make Ethereum cheap enough to actually run, right? And aside from what your opinion is on Ethereum, it's here to stay. It's here to stay as long as Bitcoin, because there's more industrial growth on Ethereum than any other crypto. And of all the layer twos, in all reality, we don't need that many. We just straight up don't need this many layer twos. And though all of them are made on Ethereum, there's really only a handful of them that I really think are worth too much of a little extra, a little worth paying a little more attention to. And there's only one that was made for Ethereum. And I want to talk about that in this video. That's Linea. I'm getting more and more bullish on Linea. The more I look into it, the more I wait and just kind of see what they're doing in the background, plus kind of where the juicy price action is right now, to be honest, in terms of getting into it and DCAing. And in this video, I want to go over of really how Linea works. What does the Linea token do or not do? Why it was designed so well, and why do both I and Linea themselves say that they were made for Ethereum as opposed to just on Ethereum. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. As always, put any questions, comments, your thoughts about Linea, or anything else down below. I do my damnedest to answer or respond to all of your comments. And let's just kind of hop right into this video today. So yeah, Linea is just another layer 2. It stood out to me from the beginning. Linea and Base. Those are the two that I really like. Yes, there's other good ones as well, but it's what my focus is, right? And what stood out to me for Linea is straight up the backing. It has between the founder and everyone that's involved with it, it is the closest thing to insider knowledge of the general market that you're going to get. You have Joe Lubin, the co-founder of Ethereum, who is the CEO of Consensus, which is an Ethereum strategic reserve company. Yes, and more, I get it. He then made Linea as a layer 2, and he has it tied in as close niche as he can to Ethereum as possible, and I really think the model is done incredibly well. And I first got into Linea because of Foxy, the mascot token, their connection with MetaMask, and all the other wonderful stuff I've talked about a few times on this channel. But to get more specifically to Linea as the chain and the token, it treats Ethereum as the settlement layer, the security layer, and just the entire monetary anchor. It just does everything with Ethereum. I'll get into it with the tokenomics because they do something very different and special for Ethereum that no other really layer 2s do, and it's how it really ties in a lot closer to it. And it's also why I kind of look into liquidity pools of Linea to Ethereum. I'll talk about that either later in this video or definitely in others because I'll be doing that in the near future regardless. But let's get into a little bit of the Linea token of what really makes it stand out, what it is and what it isn't, and why I actually think it's so much better than most of the other layer 2s in terms of the tokenomics. So for a lot of layer 2s, they copy the Ethereum model of using it as the gas token, right? Linea doesn't do that. We get rid of the gas token ideas. All transaction fees on Linea are paid in Ethereum, not Linea. Okay, that's not completely unique, but it's a little different. They don't do the whole governance token aspect. There is no DAO or token voting at the launch or any of that, which was a big deal with not having as much of the giant VCs behind it. It helped reduce some selling pressure. Now, I'm not going to say there wasn't selling pressure. If you got into Linea at the beginning, you saw the selling pressure. That was for a completely different reason, and it was why I hesitated to get in the first place. And in hindsight, I wish I would have shorted it when it first came out. But again, topic for another day. But then making sure the Linea token did not do all these things were obviously incredibly intentional. They wanted to keep Ethereum as the gas fee token so that way they can do other things with it in terms of their burning structure we'll get to in a few moments. But the token supply, about 72 billion tokens or so. And here's where things start to stand out a little bit. Right, 85% of the entire supply is allocated to the ecosystem, sitting there to do what it needs to do. And it breaks down of 75% of that is for the long-term ecosystem funds, and then 10% was for the early users and builders, and that was where a lot of the initial plummet happened when Linea was first launched, just about a year ago. There is 15% that goes to consensus, which this is important things for you guys to know when you get into crypto. Where does the initial allocation go? 15%, I don't think that's extreme. I really don't. I think that's fair to go towards the parent company. And the bigger thing is it's locked in for 5 years. So we have another 4 years before any of that 15% of that 72 billion roughly tokens ever even gets able to be released and sold. So there's no more major dumping is the point for another 4 years. We don't have to worry as much about that selling pressure. Now, if you're thinking about if you still believe in the 4 year cycle, then that's going to put it right in line for maybe to worry about for next time. But if you guys have been here with me a few times, that's not really a big concern for me in particular. But regardless, it gives us plenty of time to stack up on Linea, buy, sell, do whatever the hell you want with it. You know that the owners are not going to be selling anytime soon because they just made it so they physically can't. That's 75% of the ecosystem fund. That's the heart of Linea's tokenomics. It unlocks over 10 years. The key detail here is that unlocks are weighted towards the early years, meaning we have the heavier unlocks now, and it narrows down and makes a smaller effect over time. Again, for the early investors, I can see why people thought that it sucks or it was a scam. No, it probably came down to we didn't get enough into our own research to understand the tokenomics of it to see that, yeah, there's going to be this dump early on. But it is a dwindling effect of how much is released of that 75% over the next now 9 years. Cool. It matters less and less over time. Again, reduce selling pressure for the long-term hold. Because then there's fewer tokens later on that helps just lower the dilution as the network matures, right? So this allows for a more stable growth down the road. So, and what are these tokens used for, right? They're going to be used for user incentives. They're going to help with all the liquidity programs, which I'm a huge fan of. They're there for the builder grants to help pull in more people to build dApps and everything on Linea to help the ecosystem grow in the first place. That's good. They need incentivized. Because most layer 2s, they're all kind of similar, just like most layer 1s, they're kind of similar. There has to be a reason for someone to hop in onto it, so they save tokens for them. It helps with the public goods funding, and then, of course, the Ethereum infrastructure support. They help build Ethereum and keeps Ethereum alive. Most layer 2s don't do this. Again, we'll get more into this in a little bit. And they just keep the long-term horizon of Linea paired with Ethereum in complete focus. Now, something I'm a real big fan of is burn mechanisms and buybacks. Again, you want to have my interest in the crypto, make it a utility token, and make sure that there's a buyback or burn system. You're going to have my attention. And since this one sometimes gets a little misunderstood, this is important to understand. So with the gas fee component, again, we use Ethereum on Linea, right? Instead of using Linea for the gas tokens, we use ETH. Wonderful. But then after all the infrastructure costs, there is a little leftover Ethereum revenue from those gas fees. They do this on purpose. And so what are we doing with that little extra Ethereum revenue? Well, 20% of that leftover Ethereum from transporting with the gas fees is used to burn Ethereum. Awesome. It keeps the Ethereum model a little bit more deflationary. 80% of those then is used to buy back Linea from the open market and then burn it. I like this. This is great for long-term growth. This is going to be one of those big things that helps keep it stable for a while and then helps it go in a positive trajectory in terms of price action and makes it less volatile the more and more over time as more dApps and products come up onto it. So every time things are transferred back and forth on Linea, it burns some Ethereum to keep it down and then it buys back from the open market and burns more Linea. I really like this. I thought that was a very creative use to help keep the deflationary model of both and keeps Ethereum tied to Linea. So it helps, again, directly burn ETH and then indirectly burns Linea after buying it back. So this is rare. I haven't seen an exact model like this before. I'm very open to seeing that there's something else similar to that before, but it definitely caught my attention and I like it. Quite a bit, actually. And this is the whole reason why they say that Linea was built for Ethereum. This is the whole reason why they say that Linea was built for Ethereum, not just on Ethereum. Again, it helps strengthen Ethereum's monetary policy, it helps reduce the ETH supply, and again, it aligns Linea's success with Ethereum holders. And I'm in the full belief Ethereum's going to be around, right? It's not going anywhere. It's a long-term crypto. It is the silver to the Bitcoin. and getting tied in as close as you can to it, not a bad call. So what now Linea is directly used for? Again, ecosystem incentives is a big one. It rewards the users, the builders, and liquidity providers. So there's always ways to make money in this, right? I don't care what type of market that we're in or that you think you're in, there's always ways of making money. Liquidity pools is a big one, and it's one that I like to keep a close eye on to. It helps with the ecosystem funding. So there's grants and infrastructure, public goods. Again, helps bring more people onto Linea so that way they can use Linea, which buys more Linea to burn more Linea. So the more products and everything that is on Linea, the less tokens we actually end up having over time. And that's kind of their recycling model. I kind of like it. They're not trying to do everything. They're just trying to be the best layer 2 for Ethereum. And again, right there with Base, I'll give Base the nod right now, mostly because it's ahead of Linea. And like in terms of time, it's done a lot more. It's been around longer. But I see this as a great long-term play for it, and I love the fact that they have this tied in so closely to Ethereum. Tokenomics really do matter, and I think they kind of nailed this one right away. Because they keep it as long as you think Ethereum's going to be around forever, Linea is going to be tailing right behind to it. And now the biggest thing Linea has to do over time is get things like this Swift deal finalized, and that would bring in so much more products and companies in the board because one, it's a great backing. And then two, it just also helps out, build the resume, so to speak. The more big names you see go somewhere, people tend to follow. So that was kind of it. I just wanted to clarify a little bit of the tokenomics for Linea because when you have something early on that is such a diluted narrative of layer 2s, what makes it stand out? And what makes it stand out is the fact that they've got the co-founder of Ethereum on board. They've got a burning mechanism that's tied into Ethereum. So the better Linea does, it helps Ethereum, which helps bring other people that already own Ethereum onto Linea, especially if it makes it cheaper, and Ethereum doesn't lose anything from this. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Have you looked into Linea? Are you into it? Did you get kind of burned up from the beginning? Are you still involved? If so, let me know. I'm curious you guys' thoughts. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.